gang? What's going on? We got another good show. Dude, episode 20. If you go back and you check out, I think it's like episode 3 or 4. It's one of those really early ones. Andrew Davis was on there. And one of the things he talked about is you got to get those first 20 out to really start to feel like you're doing any better, he says, as he continually says and that's we're at 20. I'm getting a lot of compliments. I don't know if I've earned them. I don't know, maybe they're just really nice, or they have me on a low bar. They're like, oh, he's a writer, he doesn't have to be a good interviewer. But people seem surprised, and I'm enjoying it. You guys are coming out. That's the important thing. That's all I care about. We're out, we're having a good time. We're getting quality guests. Tonight's guest doesn't count, but we're getting quality guests. I'm so excited about tonight's guest. I really am. He's honestly one of my best friends, even in and out of comics. Just such a great dude. He and I have such a similar headspace when it comes to this, and so it's just like it's so difficult to not get immersed in conversation. Like, he and I will just fucking chat forever. So I'm really, really super excited to have on the show today my dude, Travis Gibb. Let's set all this up, make sure that I can see what you guys are saying, all the shit talking that's about to ensue. There it is. Thank you, Aaron. I really appreciate you. David says, love him. Are you talking about Travis or me? Or both? Yeah, see, the pink headset's always dope. Absolutely, dude. Look at that. Numbers are already flying up. Everybody's ready. Is there any reason of even like holding back? I have my birthday beer for the birthday boy who's coming up. David says both. Thank you, buddy. I'm ready to go. Fuck it, guys. Let's just do this. I'm all ready, all excited. I don't want to wait another minute. I just have. What the fuck? There we go.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool, then I'm going to keep saying fuck, because I care.
What's going on? Yeah! Trav,
what is going on? How are you?
I'm great, man. You?
I am good. I'm good. Yes. So I have a special beer for tonight. You have a milk. Wait, hold on. Fuck it. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's already pissing me off. You say I'm gonna have a birthday beer and you bring a fucking Michelob Light?
Oh, dude, I'm trying to lose weight.
It's fucking embarrassing. You know.
I don't drink a lot of beer, man.
I know, but this is already at a bad stop. Like, look at this. I bought something special for tonight. A Guinness Nitro Cold Brew Coffee. Special beer. I'm a huge Guinness fan, as anybody who's seen me on a live before. Mm-hmm. I went all out, and you bring me a fucking Michelob Light.
I have...
Look at this Magneto. This beautiful Magneto chalice. Before our chat, a fucking chalice I brought, and you bring me a Michelob Light to show me we can have a beer and talk shit.
I have. How about this? I have chilled Patron. You want me to bring some Patron in?
I mean, Jesus.
Something. I didn't realize you were so fucking bougie. Oh shit. And look at this. Everybody's fucking freaking out right now, having a good time.
Shit.
Lewis says hi.
Hey.
Peter knows that because you're on, there's going to be shit talking. There probably will be tonight. The F-bombs are definitely fucking happening tonight. Absolutely. No one's holding back. Travis, Braden says Travis likes equally shitty beer. I do not agree with that statement.
What's more sad is like my Guinness cup only goes me halfway. Like, it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
like, I feel like I need to go back and get another one.
Right. What's up, Aaron? How are you doing? Oh shit, guys, we're gonna get that. He like went all out. And he's like, oh, that's actually kind of shit. Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's shit, but yeah, birthday's tomorrow.
Yeah,
so
his birthday's tomorrow. Oh, he said it was a shit pour. I don't know.
Well,
He's supposed to have a lot of head there, Dave.
It's a Guinness, and it's with the nitro little click thing. So I think it's hard to do a really great pour on that. But it wasn't my best pour. I'll give you that.
Let's be honest, guys. It's his birthday. He deserves as much head as he can get. So fucking back off. Back off. Yeah, it's going to be one of those shows. Dude, Trish is banned. Well, Trish can come and watch on fucking YouTube. She knows that. She's always there. Today's Kira's birthday. So
happy birthday,
happy
Kira.
birthday. Guys, today Travis and I are going all across the spectrum. We're gonna talk about everything writing and story building and all that kind of stuff. We're also gonna go into the business. Any questions you guys have, anything you guys want to know, we're gonna for the most part be talking about. We're gonna have a fucking blast.
Well, and let me say this too. This is going to be a little different than the normal interviews that I do, because normally I'm on, like I'm performing, I'm doing something, and Chuck is on. And though we're going to have tons of laughs because Chuck and I have a good time together, I'm going to take this very seriously and really talk about crap and my mindset. So when Chuck asks me a question, I'm not going to look for the joke first. So if you ever heard me on a chat, I'm like, hey, I'm going to go for a chat. Hurry up and finish. Travis has a Kickstarter. But I just backed a Kickstarter. John has a Kickstarter? Fuck, let me check. So I'm going to take it a little more serious and talk about the craft, because when Chuck and I talk privately, there's a lot of serious talk that we have, because I really love this fucking industry. I really love comics, and I'm very strategic in the stuff I do. From like I just said, from when I have persona, when I have to do things, or when I'm serious. So I really want you guys to see a little side of that of me, and that's what this show's about for Chuck. So I want to be able to show that, not that we're not gonna have a good ass fucking time, not that I'm gonna rip up shit and drink beers, but just saying. John, what do I got to back? Tell me what I got to back.
I don't know if John has anything happening right now. He's still working on his last one, trying to get that out. Okay, so let's get all of the shit out of the way. I know most people know you anyways, but let's do it. What is your introduction into comics as a fan? And then what is your introduction into comics as a creator? And I know the second one is a longer question, because that's sort of a twofold thing, but why don't you hit us with that first?
Yeah, so comics, I brought home a magazine, like subscription from school. You buy a magazine, you convince your parents to buy magazines, or you sell magazines. And in it, my grandmother decided to order Spider-Man. And it's literally, oh, hey, Jerome. It's literally as simple as that. My grandmother ordered Spider-Man. The first Spider-Man I read was, I really need to remember this issue number, but it was a Spider-Man in the 80s, and it was Spider-Man versus Sabretooth. I didn't know that Sabretooth was a Wolverine villain. And they fought, and then they did stuff, but I was hooked. And from then on, I went to the comic store every day. Like, I bought more and more. I knew comic stores existed because I'm from Rochester, New Hampshire, which is right next door to Dover, the place where the Ninja Turtles came from. I am at the age where Ninja Turtles were coming up at the same time as me. So when I saw that, I jumped all in, and I started a subscription that day, and I didn't look back. I mean, I literally have every Spider-Man issue from the time that I was 12 years old. I have every X-Men from the day I realized that X-Men cartoon was awesome. So the X-Men #1 from Jim Lee, I have them all. I am a serious comic book reader. I spend a decent amount on that, and I love fucking comics. I just love it.
You know what? Before we move on, wow, I think that's on your end.
What?
There was. Oh, it's gone. Good. So before we move on, there is something, because you were talking about that Jim Lee #1, and I have to say, I think it's so fucking funny that people, you hear it all the time and go, oh man, I fucking loved that run of X-Men. It was so amazing. The stories were great. I loved those Jim Lee comics. And I'm like, Jim Lee is the artist, motherfucker. Like, why are you talking about the story and saying, oh, Jim Lee, he made that? Like, I mean, obviously his art was gorgeous and amazing and all that kind of stuff. That's great, but I don't think that Jim Lee, he wasn't exactly John burning it up. Like, it's not like he really added much to the story, and yet people tend to mention the story, and somehow it's that Jim Lee run, and I'm like, okay, but that's why can you not also say the latter Claremont years, which really is what that is?
Well, and here's why. Jim Lee's what made it cool. Jim Lee took it, his run. Claremont, honestly, and I'm gonna go crazy. Till Extreme X-Men, like that was X-Men was his last good idea. Splitting them into the two teams, the gold and the blue team, and you could clearly tell cartoon team, the other X-Men. Like that's what it was, which was not a bad thing. But Claremont was the one who's like, all right, let's make them superheroes again. Because right before that, they were fighting the Shi'ar, and you had a great battle. One of my favorite battles is when you get fucking Gambit gets a whole fucking 52 card deck into Gladiator in the chest. Oh, yeah. So good, so good. You've got all that right there. He's the one who brought it really, really interesting. But if you think about it, really, Claremont was just laying nuggets because he was only in there for a little bit, but he's just laying nuggets like Bishop. Here's a whole bunch of nuggets, and then he went away, and other people wrote the awesome stories of those nuggets. In that particular year.
Yes, okay.
Not forever. In that time period.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can agree
Bishop
with that. Yeah.
Omega Red, all that stuff that made them cool came from other people later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I'll totally give you that. That's a very fair statement. Yeah. Jerome's like the '90s was the artist era as opposed to right. You're not wrong, but I just found it funny that we were looking at it even with those glasses of it's about the artist. Pete came on and he goes, it's nice to hear creators as comic book fans. There are so many speculators doing shows and making comics that have never opened a book to enjoy it. It's funny. We will not mention any names, but there's a particular creator that and creators, because there's a couple who they make comics, but they don't give a fuck about comics. And we've heard it mentioned, and it honestly, I remember the first time we heard it, and both Travis and I were like, "What? What the fuck are you talking? What the fuck are you do?" And we were like bothered and angered to a point, like for me especially, but I mean also I just can't speak for you, but for me, I can't get over it. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here, man? This is what we do in comics is such hard work. It's so frustrating. There's so much to do that if you want to do something else, fuck off and go do it. Why are you here? And so, yeah, that stuff, feel free to jump in and say however you feel.
Well, so for me, when I think about that particular person or any person like that, I get frustrated as a whole from interviewers to the whole line of people who just don't love comics. They did it. They have a admiration for comics. They don't love comics. They don't read comics on a regular basis. I get frustrated when someone who sits to me and tells me that the industry's dying, and I'm sitting here having a conversation with them. I'm like, why are we having this talk then? If you believe it's dead, like, what's the point? We're not saving it. And they're like, well, I haven't been in a comic store in years. I only read Kickstarters and Indiegogo. Hey, those are my fans. I love those guys. I love those guys who buy my stuff. But man, there's some good stuff coming up from Marvel, DC, Image. All these people do some really great fucking things. Pete, I gotta get back to the family. Have a great night, man. Have a great night, Pete.
Take care of yourself, buddy.
Go ahead and do that commission, man. I'll give you some money. Go do that commission. Just do it.
Yeah, whatever you're doing. Do it. So anyway, we broke away. Now, how about you getting into comics as a creator?
So I was young and needed the money, and
didn't even like comics. I was just like, fuck it.
I see immediately my instinct is to go into the humor. Like, yeah, I'm like, all right, I got to make people laugh. I promised I wouldn't do that. So apologize, guys. No. So was at MegaCon. I had just moved to Florida. I came here for a film degree. Came here because very inspired by this shirt right here. Wanted to make films so bad. I wanted to be a filmmaker. And I really wanted to be on the writing side. I wanted to be a Kevin Smith. I wanted to be a Quentin Tarantino. I wanted to be a Guy Ritchie. I wanted to be all those guys. So I worked so hard on writing scripts. So I was writing scripts since I was in high school, just writing. In fact, I'm writing a letter to my music teacher because she's retiring this year, and I'm writing to tell her how much she inspired me. So I'm going to take it back, actually, before I even get to comics. My music teacher was amazing. Her name was Miss Houston, and she was so awesome. I was never a great singer. I wasn't. I could carry a tune, and I have charisma for days. So like I can get away with a lot of that with charisma with just a decent voice. We're talking high school, right? She would go to every meeting because I was a D and C student because I didn't give a fuck. I cared about people. I didn't care about school. She would come in. And all these teachers would be around me saying how I could do this better and this better and this better. And she would sit there and look at me and go, so these aren't the things that you're good at. It's okay. Like, you don't have to be good at these things. And I remember looking at her with disdain going, your shit doesn't matter. You're an elective. Like, this is what my brain's telling me, not getting the message that this woman was trying to tell to me. She's like, you're never going to be good at these things, Travis. That's not what you are. Like you need to not let these people hold you down and focus on this. And I missed the message when I was in the moment. You know, it wasn't until the last day of school. I went up to Miss Houston. I was like, you fucking did nothing for me, because she had her favorites. Her favorites got to hang out in her office and she would buy them chocolates and all sorts of stuff. And then this woman literally fucking laid out the list of all the shit she did for me. Like Rent was a big musical. She literally got Rent and gave me the solo. She's like, you like that? I gave it to you. I got it in this school because you inspired so many kids to like that with you. The STEM started from you. And it did. One kid walked in school and said, this is garbage, and threw it. I hated that kid, picked it up, listened to it, and decided it was fucking gold. And I convinced the whole class that this was the musical. This is the thing. Because it spoke to everything I was doing. I was in relationships. For those who've seen Rent, Rent is a musical about a breakup. Basically, it's musical. They come together and go together, and AIDS, blah blah blah. Everyone knows the basics. But the core crux of it is Roger and Mimi, and they can't figure out their relationship, even though they're madly in love with each other. And that was me, like trying to figure out high school love, like trying to figure it. So I related so much to that, like having that. And then the other thing. I always felt like I was a piece of shit, Chuck. And I still, like, that's the gem. Like, I always felt, because my parents were fucking drug addicts, that I was a piece of shit. And that I was always going to be a piece of shit, regardless of what happened. But that musical has a song called One Song Glory. And I thought if I could just have one message, one world where someone can hear that song and it gets out there, that's going to be me. And that's why I got into film. Flash forward to comics. Film didn't work out. It just didn't. I had a kid. So my dreams and that one song couldn't be made. I love how I've stopped chat. I apologize, guys. You can chat. Get on these things. Chat away. Mock me. It's good. I know we're getting emotional here, but it's all right.
We're coming back. We're coming back.
We're coming back. So I just wanted to share a story, and I went to MegaCon and I saw this guy, and he had a crime comic book, and he had a beautiful cover display, and it was just a little display like this big. And I was like, I know crime. I love crime. I write a whole bunch of crime. I had written tons of crime, for my film classes. And I said, hey man, what does it take to get a comic? He's like, well, we do 4-page backups. You submit and get the art. I literally jumped on it, paid the artist, got it done, sent it to him. And he took it. It was called Government Bodies number 3 is what I was in. And from then on, actually, I got it right here. It changed my life. It went from that to, doing stuff. Yeah, right here. Government Bodies number 3. Issue date is July 2003.
Was that through Image?
No. Image came later. This is a book called Across the Pond. It's a small black and white little book.
Okay.
That's what started me. It's just, sure. I think it's relatable to some of us. I think we were so engaged in listening. Yeah, absolutely, Sean. And I know that. But I that's not what I meant. I didn't mean to get you guys, emotionally invested in this arc that I'm going through. Because this arc is past. But that's how I got into comics. So I did that. I did a couple other ones, but that kid needed to raise that kid, Chuck. I looked at my fucked up life and I was just like, that needs to be my priority. And I did. And I made a lot of bad decisions based off of, I need to raise this kid. Me and the mom broke up and I immediately married someone very quick because that woman had money. And she cared about me and she could provide us that family unit that I needed for my kid. But that woman wasn't good for me. She didn't love me. I didn't really love her. I just needed a mother for my kid. And she needed revenge on her ex, and pair of boobs and a whole bunch of stuff later trying to figure out that relationship. It ended and tragically changed my life and trajectory, to finding my wife now who inspired me to get back into this game, I've my whole life, I love my wife so much and I waited so long for her. And I wish I wasn't shitty. And I wish I waited for her, really wait, not get married, not find other people. I wish I just waited for someone perfect like her, because I could have done so much more in this industry if I started sooner. And I needed someone like her to love me and care about me. And Allison's mom did, the stuff that I did with before. Allison's, my daughter's mom, she was really encouraging, did a lot of stuff. But yeah. Sorry. All right. So that's where we're at.
So, okay. Well, that makes me think then, during that long period of time between, negative burn, government bodies, and then broke down, what part did writing have in your life? Did it have any part?
Yeah, it never went away. I just I did it for a select 50 to 200 people. I was a LARPer. I did role playing. I ran large games for Werewolf. And please understand, a lot of people do that with sub STs or anything. Anybody's ever been to any of my games, I ran the fucking show. If you had somebody else, you didn't really have the plot. The plot went with me. And I built stories and universes and created worlds for these people. And that's what I was writing. And I was, my audience was good. And they loved me for it. And I loved them for it because it was fun and it was my outlet and it was good. It was a good time.
It's funny that you and I both have that, because of course I had Wendy and I had our game that lasted, most of the first half of our marriage, basically. So that's kind of funny that we kind of have those the way of, you still found some way to be creative and utilize that. And I think in a lot of ways also, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of knew you had a gift. But it wasn't it was oh, I can do this and I love doing this. And so I don't know if, I think for me, a lot of times I felt like one day I'll be good enough to do that and it'll just happen. I don't know about you. Was it similar for you at all, or?
So for me, going back to the red thing, that was a big influence in my life. And I was going to create something. I was going to create something. I didn't know what it was because the LARP didn't fulfill me. I mean, I traveled to, Minnesota, to New Orleans, to all sorts of places to tell those LARP stories. And it was never fulfilling enough. Even though people hunted me down, I ran tribes for Werewolf. I ran groups for vampires. I ran 20 years of my life. I ran those games and I don't run a single one now. Because I needed to create. I need to create. If you do not allow me to create, I die. And my wife, that's one of the things that ended my marriage. I had to give up games to try to save that marriage, and it killed me. And she didn't know where I went. right? She didn't understand that I was gone because I was giving up something for her that I needed. Like I needed to survive. I need that outlet. It makes me feel valued. You know, it makes me feel. It makes me feel valued. So, you know, coming around, especially with issue 4 coming for Brokedown and finishing, right? So Brokedown started in like 2006, 2007 to finish it now in 2021. Like it's done. I just got some art, the last few color pages, wrapping it up and doing that is that's my first story done. And yeah, I completed Dog Days and other stuff, but Brokedown is mine. It's my creation, my characters. It's all mine. Nobody's tainted it. I've done it. It's mine, and I'm very, very proud of it. I'm proud to put it out in the world, and I'm proud of people who look at it and go, it was a Pulp Fiction." Like when they read the first issue, go, "It's very much like Pulp Fiction." I was like, "Yeah, but keep reading," because anybody who's read it through just goes, "Oh, I see your voice." I was like, "Yes, I gave you something familiar to do that because I know how to do that. I know how to tell stories. I'm very good at it." You know, one of the reasons why I'm so good at like the Cthulhu Invades Oz is I can put all those things together and make a cohesive story. It's very easy for me. And Chuck and you and I have talked about this privately. It's something very easy for you when you're doing role-playing games and you're doing multiplayer role-playing games. It's really easy to connect people's story together. But that's a skill that we have that not a lot of people have, and it makes us unique and special.
Yeah, no, it's funny because Wendy will come to me specifically and say, I need you. Like I remember she in our role playing game, she had this one character and they were on this long journey and these things kept happening, and this thread literally went on for at least like a year or so, and then she came to me and she said, I'm having an issue, and I said, what's going on? She said, well, I've got this thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know that thread. I check it out now and then. Yeah. So what about it? And she was like, I don't know where it's going. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't know where it's going. And she was like, yeah, I just keep making things happen. And I'm like, why are those things happening? Well, because he needs things to happen, right? And I'm like, how am I the only one who thinks like this? Like how are you not like agonize? Because I think that's something that you and I have in common.
Yeah.
We agonize over these details. Like
Right.
we'll make these encounters happen, but they either need to fit in or specifically they're there to not fit in. You know what I mean? Like there's some kind of red herring or something else that's going on that connects to something else or
Right.
whatever. But we know that. And that shit, like it bothers us. It's in the back of our head. And so it's funny that other storytellers don't necessarily see that. So
Right.
I love that about you. and so, yeah, that was just something with her. And I'm like, oh, people do look at it different. Okay.
Well, and some people just want to entertain for that night. That's not what I do. That's never how I ran things. I'm like, I'm telling you a story. You know, they were TV shows when I did my LARPs. You know, they were seasons.
Yeah.
This is the villain. It's gonna go this way. It's gonna go to here, and it's gonna go crazy. I need you to be part of the story. And the more you're part of it, the more it doesn't. The better it's gonna be because we're all gonna get it. Even when. So for those who follow White Wolf went from Vampire the Masquerade to Vampire Requiem. It changed universes. Well, I embraced the Vampire Requiem, unbeknownst to stuff. I didn't just say I need to tell my own story, but I literally left threads in there from the old universe because the world reset, and this is the new reset of that universe. So there was threads tying that old world together because for me, it needs to tell one story. Even if you've ever seen an interview with Neil Gaiman says everything's in the same universe. I'm telling one story. You just can't see all the parts because that's the way I tell stories. And it's so neat to me, like that he does that. But yeah, I need to do that, and I need to run it the way I see it. When I ran Werewolf the Apocalypse, even though we were part of a LARP organization, I ran it fucking balls to the wall, like the book says. Like characters died on a nightly basis. It was a savage game. It was about survival. It's called Werewolf Survival. So people who came to my game knew that you could lose your character. Be careful if you go to that game. So I would scare people to come to my game. And I was also known as the fixer. If someone came with a character that had broken shit that shouldn't be around, I would break that shit and send them back on their way because I didn't care about your feelings. And the other thing is, if I broke your shit, I am going to give you a story arc to pay you back for what I did. Okay, you can't have this weapon anymore because it's breaking the game, but I'm going to give you all this story for your character. That's going to be better and more fun for you than being able to do 10 damage when you should be doing 5. You know?
Absolutely. So you and I, we talk about the story pieces and all that kind of stuff. When you're creating something from scratch, what does that look like? The blank page of, the light bulb of an idea came to eventually becoming something. What does that look like usually in your head? What's kind of the process?
So it used to be that I would go. I'm all about so this is kind of a transition to me because I'm in transition. I used to write it out page by page, issue, basically write out the issues or whatever I'm doing. So if it's a 4-issue arc, I write out that whole story, kind of the major plot points. Issue 1's going to be here, issue 2, 3, 4. Yes, it can change, but this is my guideline of what I'm going through. So I write all that out before I even put pen to paper, like for the real script, because I need to do that. But recently, I actually do the character backgrounds first. Writing those characters, giving these characters a little bit more life. And I'm very good at giving characters voices. I'm very, very good at that. That's not a problem with me, and making the voices sound different and distinct. But one of the things I've learned about comics is people resonate to characters based on looks and feelings and all that way before they care about the personality and all that. That personality comes second. So I'm trying to do that more conscientious. And I think that I avoided that for a long time, not because I didn't know it, because that's something I couldn't control, right? I control their voice all day long, but I can't control their art. That's really up to the artist thing. So writing detailed description of what this person looks and what makes that guy fucking cool. So I want to write a good thing for my artist to go, hey, he needs to be cool. Because currently I'd be like, let's use Bishop Lucas for an example for Voodoo Nations. I was just like, hey, I need Bishop Lucas to, I want him to be skinny, kind of Loki-ish, in his mannerisms, and I want him to hunch down, and I wanted to have a Jokerish smile but crooked teeth. That's what I gave to Luke, and he came out with a great example.
Yeah.
But really, I really should have done even more. Hey, this guy, his eyes are always dark and it's cold. Like, I really needed to add those extra layers. And as I'm creating new characters and new life, I'm doing that. One of the things that I'm stuck in as a writer that I'm trying to break myself of, I write to what I could direct as a filmmaker. And I need to stop doing that because we're in comics. My imagination is as one, but I don't do that. There's a level of realism that I cannot break. So my next script, you're going to see I'm breaking a lot of that realism because I need to get to that next level.
Do you feel like that's something where you almost have to go just to the extreme opposite? Like maybe to a world that just doesn't fucking make sense, so that you could just completely obliterate that idea and then come back? Or do you think it's something that you have to kind of a little more slowly and methodically break down? And
I think it's something I got to keep chipping away at, because I think what makes me a good writer is my grounded in realism in my dialogue. That stuff doesn't benefit from massive cool creatures or looks. It's just something that I'm good at. So I need to stick to my strength, but I need to be able to venture out and play with stuff. And I've got a new idea that I'm working on that's really, really cool. It's really going to be able to play with a lot of those elements, that I think is going to work, because I wrote an idea. I talked about it a while ago called Yellow. And Yellow was a great idea, and basically the premise of Yellow, and I'm going to share the whole premise because I'm not writing the book anymore. The premise was is the world, a meteor hit not a meteor, an eruption happened, like a Yellowstone eruption happened, and smoke kept to the chemicals, and the government threw stuff up there to kind of separate them. The cloud dust that holds. Because if you don't know this, when one of those, it can actually turn you dark for like 3 to 4 months. Like it happened in like New England for a summer. They had no summer; it was just winter because the ash gets stuck in the clouds and it holds over. So if one of those things happen, it can really affect things. Well, the government decides to throw shit up there to fix it, and it makes it worse, and the whole world's in darkness. So everything is dark. Everybody's trying to go through. This guy is doing an experiment on babies, and the baby brings light. So she is illuminating light from the sun, and everyone's coming to this place, which is Yellowstone National Park, looking for the sun, looking to get back to normal life. But as they go there, everything's dark and lit up by Christmas lights and neon lights and all that. But fucking Better Writers, Nocturna, came out 2 weeks ago, and that's the premise of that, basically.
Oh.
What can you do?
Right. I wouldn't say Better Writers, but they did it already, so whatever, right?
I mean, he created Court of Owls and a whole bunch of other shit over at DC. So
he had the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. Court of Owls is a pretty fucking good idea.
I'll be honest, I haven't read it. Not a huge Batman. You know that I'm not a huge Batman guy. I haven't read an awful lot of the big two stuff as of recently in the last, I'd say, 10 years or so. I'm not one of the guys who slags it, though, and you know that about me. I don't attack it. It's just I only have money for so much. I would rather pour it into my fellow indies than into something else at this moment. Max, what's going on, buddy? If you guys have any questions, by the way, I'm leading this right now, but if there's anything particular about writing or the business or either that you guys are interested or something else, let us know. We're very interested in kind of getting into all this and seeing what's going on. Do you only have I don't have a lot of people walking away on me. I'm
trying to get a footstool.
Okay. You only have, we only have so much stuff that's completed and whatnot. But do you find even in the few years, because you and I basically now, like in your second rendition, your renaissance so much as it may be seen of creating comics again, you and I are basically, we started in the same class together.
Right.
So are you able to look back at your stuff, say even stuff like the first broke down and stuff like that, and look and go, you know what? Now looking at it, I would have done this differently. I would have played with this. Like, are you already finding that evolution even in the just last couple of years?
I mean, I think you always do, but I saw it more when I look back at my early stuff, the 2003, the 2005, the 2006. And what's interesting when you look at like a Broke Down is written, still has some of my teen angst. It still has some of my 20-somethings in it. Like it's still there in the DNA of that book. I don't know if I could write Broke Down the way I wrote it today. Like if I started from scratch with the idea, I don't know if I could write it that way. I can write it because I can get into that mindset now because I had the framework already written out. But I don't know if I'd write things because I write things very differently. Like Voodoo Nations, like that issue 1, if you are religious and know what Ash Wednesday is and all that, that is an epic, oh my fucking God, look at what he did. It was very, very clever. Like I was very proud of myself on doing that. Where Broke Down doesn't have a lot of that stuff. Yes, there's case and a mystery and all the stuff. And a lot of the Broke Down stuff that later, you'll see a lot more of the more modern Travis. But young Travis was just about guns, violence, and F words, and that's what he wanted to do, and it's fun. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just it's almost like there's two different writers: the guy who wrote Broke Down and the guy who wrote Voodoo Nations. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that because they're both written intentionally different. Because I'm writing them, to show that I have a different writing style. I'm not just one trick pony. And you have this thing, with Welcome to the Void, and they're not written the same style.
No, no. And the funny thing is that Welcome to the Void was written back in 2007. So it's actually the same thing for me. I kind of have to go back to that mindset of who that guy was and what his sentimentalities were and whatnot. And I can still, what I get to do now is I get to add my experience and all that kind of stuff to it. Alan, good to have you here, man. And actually, perfect timing because we're talking about Cthulhu. It just got brought up. What was your inspiration for Cthulhu Invades Oz?
Rip off people who do it better than me, who have a better career, and just steal their shit. No. What I wanted to do with Cthulhu Invades Oz, and the inspiration was, I wanted to create an anthology. I wanted people to work together, and I wanted to tell one narrative. That was important to me. So I took the things that were selling well on Kickstarter. Like, it was 100% a money grab to the T. It started out that way. It ended up not being that way, but that was the plan. Cthulhu sold well, Oz sold well. Can we tell these together and do something amazing? So when I started getting the teams together, I really wanted literally the best people who I could work to tell a story with, because I wanted to be leveled up to their level. And it didn't. It's funny because I leveled up. And a lot of the people who are in that book go, I want to be to your level, Travis. Like, I was like, oh, well, but when I created that I didn't have a level. I was just trying to figure it out, right? Donkeys hadn't officially fucked up, I was good. So yeah, that was the inspiration of getting my friends together to create a story. And it's still the inspiration, as the story gets more and more in depth.
Well, and it's funny. I remember when you brought up the idea, and it did feel like a cash grab. But when I was given the chance to step away from it, I was like, but yeah, that's kind of the purpose, though. Like, yes, you're telling, we told a really cool story. Like, the story that came out of that is really fucking cool. What everybody did and how everyone kind of changed the path of what that was and what it would become is fucking cool. But really, the idea, the cash grab idea,
right,
is not something that I think people should scoff at. Scoff and then think about it, because the original scoff is, so it's a money thing. Yeah, this is a business, motherfucker. Absolutely, it's a money thing. But it would only be a money thing if quality wasn't something that you also aimed for. Right. And so by trying to get the best storytellers as both artists and writers, trying to get these really cool moments together where people had a chance to show off what they did, and then being able to elevate that by making all of these, however many, what was there, like 50 fucking stories or something ridiculous like that?
There was 50 creators. I don't know how many stories there was, but there was
so probably 20 plus at least.
Yeah.
So these 20 plus stories, 20 to 30, whatever they are, getting those and being able to make them one story, one narrative is fucking huge. It's so much work. And so I think out there, you guys have to realize that there is a financial aspect of this that we need to understand and notice. And it is something that you, Travis, have enlightened me to. Where now I look at things differently. I remember coming to you one day and being like, dude, we got to fucking Moneyball a book. And you were like, what? And I'm like, the movie Moneyball. Like, we gotta basically, and the idea was you create a book. The idea of the book doesn't fucking matter, because as we've said before, you and I, we're creators who we can jump in any genre pretty much, or at least play with them. So the idea was, let's find a bunch of people who, a writer, well, we would write or whatever, but a penciler, an inker, a colorist, a letterer, all people who are good on Kickstarter, who push Kickstarters, who have their own fan base and audience, that you can then turn that into something that would make a really fucking cool book and make some money. And right. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Again, you have to keep that quality in mind. And that is something that, in a way, was done with Cthulhu Invades Odds. Of course, there was, there was so many people on there that you couldn't be like, well, this person's going to bring in that much, and this person's going to bring like you. Sure. At the end of the day, it's like, well, what are they going to do, and what does their voice add to it? And so there's a lot more to it.
Well, and I think it's important. Quality is something that Kickstarter does not have a quality control button. I get Kickstarters from people who I think are great creators who give me a shit quality book. Credit pages aren't right. The punctuation or grammar isn't right. And they literally just put their name on something. And that's something that I learned really easy. Like, the people who make it in Kickstarter, the people who give them comic book quality stuff that they would pick up at their comic store. It has to be as good as something they pick up at the comic store. Because if it's not worth their time. And it shouldn't be worth their time. I'm not. The other thing I want to say before we jump on, I know there's a whole bunch of other questions about Cthulhu Invades Oz. One of the things I didn't realize at the time that I really honor now, that I didn't honor when I created it, I gave people an opportunity to write characters that they've loved their whole entire life. And that is something that I didn't realize was so valuable. Most of us are never going to get to touch any of the big two or anything that we're a fan of. But for that one moment, Chuck got to write a story about the Scarecrow, a character, whether he loved it or hated it, that has inspired and been beloved by millions and millions of people around the world. And yeah, it's not Spider-Man. It's not Wolverine. It's not, Deadpool. But it is a character that is loved and cherished in doing that. And one of the things I did do, on the quality controls, I made sure that people loved and had a story of these characters and loved it. And you'll see that in my writing. I have a disclaimer right at the beginning. Hey, you're going to see these characters in ways you've never seen them before, but know it was done with love and respect for the originals. And I think that that's a big thing, and why something like Cthulhu Invades Oz worked and worked so well. People want to make games out of it. That it's it'll be sold at some point, but we'll figure it out.
Right? No, but it's true. Like, everyone really did. I've read that book more times than probably 95% of anyone who's ever touched that book.
Right.
Maybe even more than that. And I can tell you, everybody who worked on that really cared. They really did want to bring something cool. You can feel it, you can see it, you can touch it. It's all there. So, and I think a lot of that did come from you and your initial ideas and how you brought that out. And I think that's really important. But yeah, it's absolutely in there. Max DeVille says, what do you guys do to get past creativity block? Not writer's block, but creativity block. I got to be straight with you, Max. I'm not really sure for me necessarily that's necessarily a thing. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm good because no, it's just like, I think that there's always, I think a lot of times what we do is we get into these things where we're just like, my ideas aren't good enough, or I'm not doing, and it's just like, nah, man, maybe this isn't what you're supposed to be working on right now. What about you?
What I do is I write my way out. It's a famous, apparently I'm talking about musicals a lot, but I write my way out. If I'm stuck in a start, I just keep writing and I write shit until I write my way out back to the creative process that I need to be. There's a guy who hangs out with us who says there's no such thing as writer's block. He's like, you don't have worker's block. That's not reality. People sometimes get stuck in stuff, but if you don't have creativity, if you're not ready to do something, and maybe your story, you look at it after the fact and be like, there's nothing new here. That's okay sometimes. Like, it's okay. We've seen the bad kid who murders his family and gets away with it because he's a good kid story. We've seen it with superheroes. We've seen it with Chucky. Like, we've seen it over and over again. We've seen the abused wife by the husband who leaves her trapped. We've seen it over and over again, but then now and then you get things like a Misery and go, oh, that's the same fucking plot, just turned slightly different in this slightly askew way, and now it's fucking genius. So don't be afraid to write that same thing, because if it resonates, it resonates. That's why there's a billion vampire stories. That's why there's a billion zombie stories. Because if you tilt it just a little bit, you can make something beautiful.
It was funny because you know what, I'm gonna say it. Elfie came to me the other day. You and I are working on a story for him called Sacrificial Lambs, and it's a vampire story. And he said to me, he said, "Man, I'm so you learn." He said, "I feel so stupid for just making a vampire story." And I said, "Well, you didn't just make a vampire story. This isn't just a normal vampire story. We have our own little things that are going on in this." And he's like, "I know, but there's so many vampires on Kickstarter, so I just feel kind of dumb." And I was like, "Dude, Cthulhu Invades Oz made like 25 grand. Cthulhu, Cthulhu is Hard to Spell made 20 grand plus. Fucking Kid Cthulhu made 10 grand in its first day." So no, that's like such a fucking ridiculous way to think. There's so much more to that, guys. And so the thing is, it's exactly what you said. It's you're taking these things. We've seen vampires a million times, but just change it slightly. Even like, look, a lot of us are not Twilight fans, but Twilight was a very different take on vampires. And it allowed people who probably would never have picked up a vampire book to fall the fuck in love with it. And so even if it's not for you, they did exactly what they should have been doing, and that is they took something and they gave it their tweak. And that's all you got to do. That's kind of what the creativity is, and it might not feel like a creative tweak because you're so deep in your own fucking head.
Right.
But the thing about it is that doesn't mean that everybody else has seen that. It means you've seen it. But of course you have. It's your fucking head. You've seen all of it.
Well, and even, going to that story, that was important to me as the writer when he asked me his stuff. And I remember early on, we talked him into allowing it to be in a post-COVID world, and though that doesn't really affect the story in a crazy way, it gives us new reasons for why the vampires are doing what they're doing that people haven't done before.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a beautiful thing. And even though that doesn't massively change the story in any way, shape, or form, but that little tweak goes, oh, I've never seen the post-COVID vampire story. It's just like any other vampire story. It's just post-COVID.
Yeah.
But it gives it its little bit. And that's all it needs. I that was a writing gig. Alfie gave me the writing gig, and it was a vampire story, and I had the stuff, but I got to tell it in my way. I have a beautiful story that Chuck said in notes. Hey, what would you say? Don't Kevin Smith this, I think. Because it was a wall of text, because I told a story about baseball that was very important. And I edited probably fucking 2 sentences out of there because I needed that wall of text, which isn't the way I write at all. But we have fun with it, and we make it our own, and we find that scene, because that scene is so important to me. It's so important because it's, hey, I found a neat analogy about vampires that ties into baseball. And I don't care about baseball. I don't really care that much about vampires. But when I put the two together, I feel like I'm a genius. So, let me have that.
I have to say, this was one of those times where I completely had your back, because I remember Elfie saying, I prefer basketball. And I was like, no, you don't get it, dude. Like, none of us are fighting for baseball here. We're not saying, ooh, we really want to tell a baseball story. This was like, he found a really fucking good analogy, and who gives a shit about the fucking sport? None of us care about the sport. I can't name any fucking players playing right now. Not the point.
Right.
And so I think when he understood that, he's like, oh, okay. It's like, yeah. You don't have to give a nod to the stuff all the time that you like.
Right.
But when you find that perfect moment, regardless of whether it actually, what that is matters to you or not, when the moment is perfect, you have to go with it. And that's one of those.
And that's I think I call it the Kevin Smith syndrome. Kevin Smith was very good at sprinkling in the things that he likes throughout his scripts. but he would always take it in a unique direction that it was okay. Where if you read a comic, an indie comic from a rookie writer, you see them sprinkle the things they love or their friends or this and that. Like you can feel their story in there. And if it feels too much like their story, it's nobody's story anymore, right? Because you're writing about your friends, and the things that you like about your friends are so unique and special to you that people can't relate with that, right? Kevin Smith, when you look at Clerks, and the reason why Mallrats and Clerks, why Mallrats didn't work in Clerks is simple. Clerks was a bunch of shorts that he kind of threw together that had one narrative that kind of worked. When he got that taken away and had to write the guts of a film for Mallrats, he didn't know how to do that. He didn't know how to take the story of Brody and TS and go all the way through. And again, Mallrats is my favorite Kevin Smith movie. I'm not saying that it's a bad movie in any way. I'm just saying when you take that and then go to Chasing Amy, where he developed these characters, and these characters aren't him. They're not his world. He doesn't know anything about them, but he's lived and created this love for those characters. That's a completely different thing.
Yeah, it is funny because you and I both have a big affinity for him, and it's funny that you're right. You can watch that evolution, and even when we were talking earlier about you being able to push back those walls of kind of the what makes sense and what's real and what's not, I would say that he did that with Dogma. That was his moment where he was like, I have to. I mean, he had a fucking shit monster, and he had all this stuff that just like could never have been in any of his other movies. But that was the point for him where he was like, okay, cool, I have to break this down. And he still had this realistic take to it. I mean, things like giving head in order to hitchhike. Like there was all this stuff where it's like, okay, we understand that, all that. There were these very human moments.
Bob starting back.
Was it?
The Way of the Road was Carrie Fisher and Jay talking about when they're trying to get to California.
Shit, I really thought that was when they landed in Okay.
It's not important. I mean, he tries to sleep with Bethany the whole movie. So I mean, I'm sure there's a head reference, but the scene that you're talking about.
You're right. Okay.
The rules of the road with George Carlin and all that is.
Because George Carlin. That's right. Okay, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes, it's funny. Bruno came in. He said, "You guys look like twins." I would actually say we look like triplets. I'm the twins, and he's the third guy.
I love the comment right after, what I didn't recognize Travis the trim beard. So like someone's going, they're twins. No, they're not.
Yeah, right. And see.
So Kyra had some stuff we got to respond.
I'm not seeing Kyron on here at all. What did Kyron say?
No, Kyra Burton.
Oh, Kyra Burton.
Kyra.
Oh, can you give James Burton something else next time he tortured me with Wheelers for weeks?
He does have something in the new book.
I think it's not Wheelers.
Maybe?
I think so.
Not Wheelers.
It's not the Wheelers.
You're welcome.
Bob wants us to make those Benjamins. Thank you. We want to as well. Davey Lee is late for a very important date. Is it this or is it something even better? Kira. What are we drinking? Go ahead.
I just finished my first, I got to go get one from the fridge, Nitro Cold Brew Coffee from Guinness. It was okay. And he is offending my honor.
I'm drinking the Michelob Ultra Lime and Prickly Pear Cactus.
What?
It's Lime and Prickly Pear Cactus.
That's the name of the beer?
That's the flavor, yeah.
I don't even know you. I don't even know what's going on here.
That's good.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
On May 1st, you're going to drink real beers like a man.
I'll probably drink liquor like a man. And some beer, whatever. I'll drink a bunch. Why fucking hold back?
You actually just made me switch to liquor, so you already won that argument. I was just like, maybe I'll have a liquor.
Are you gonna go grab something?
Yeah, I can grab something.
Go grab something, and I'll hold the fort while you do that. That's fine. She says, "Congrats to both of us."
Thank you.
Thank
What do we
you.
do?
I don't know. Oh, Bruno, congrats on the. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
So
Oh yeah,
Bruno
that's
saw
right.
that beautiful PDF.
The what?
The beautiful PDF of little book came out on April Fool's Day.
Oh yeah. Hopefully people did. But he could be congratulating me on this, on officially being an author. But bam.
Oh yeah.
So
What
now I
does that feel
demand you.
like?
I called my mom and I cried. I'll be honest.
Okay.
You know what? When I was little, novels. So I've always loved story. Novels were huge for me when I was young.
Right.
And that's mostly because I didn't have access to comics.
Right.
So for me, I would read voraciously, constantly, and I would write too. I remember having a 30-page book, not finished, but a 30-page book, which I had, by the way, outlined and then was writing through, and I had written 30 pages of it, and I was in grade 6.
Wow.
And so at that age, that's a lot of fucking writing, and it was huge to me. And so I called my mom the other night and I showed her the book, and I told her, I said, this is here, because you really made me fall in love with books. And she said, yeah, but you fell in love with them way more than I ever did. I was like, well, yeah, but you made it, you gave me the access, you know what I mean? Like, you took me to libraries, I always had the opportunity. And so yeah, it's huge. I've told the story before, but when I got into comics and I held my first the first book I'd ever been published as a writer, and then Welcome to the Void, and I was like, I'm a writer, great. And someone mentioned the word author, and I'm like, yeah, I'm an author. And I remember talking with Eric, and he goes, yeah, you're kind of not though. And I was like, I don't buy that shit. And he's like, it doesn't matter if you buy it. He said, I remember I'd been writing comics. He said, I have so many comics out there. I'd done so many things. And then he said, when I made the Blister novel and I showed it to my parents, they said they were so excited. And they said, oh my gosh, you're an author. That's amazing. And he was like, fuck off. I go, no. But then he realized that's how people saw it. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Maybe your parents are just weird. That's not a thing. So I ignored it. And
Right.
I'm working on Essence House. And then we had the Essence House cover done. And he did the mock-up of what the novel would look like. And I sent it to my mom. And I'm not even shitting you. The first words out of her mouth was, oh, my son's going to be an author. And I was like, motherfucker, are you serious right now? Like, this is actually a thing. So yeah, it did become a big thing to me because I realized that to other people it mattered.
Right.
And so because of that, then it was like, cool, well, I want that title of author. And as much as I felt I earned it, it doesn't fucking matter what I feel. They don't feel like I earned it. And so now I get to say, well, it's there. What are you going to do now?
Yeah. I have felt. I'll be honest. I felt fake. Till issue 4, and it's not technically even out yet. Till issue 4 was finished, I didn't feel like I could call myself a creator fully. I did
Finished
because you got to finish. There's so many of people who have stuff, but they don't finish.
Yeah.
In Cthulhu Invades Oz, I was hoping that would fill, but this is a lot of mine. It's a lot of mine. Like, there's a lot of me handpicking and doing stuff that makes this mine, that I can really claim ownership to it, but it's not mine. Like, I'm never going to feel like it's mine. Broke Down is mine. I've got that. So I'm super excited to be able to do that, because it really does it. And it's crazy because I even have Dog Days, which I know has been done forever. No one's seen it, but it's been written out. I had the whole thing, but it's out. It's in print. I'm going through the final drafts, and it's just crazy because it matters, and I want to matter, and I want to matter to publishers, and I want to matter to myself that not only am I going to write stuff, I'm in this for the long haul. Couple of small steps. I have these binders here. So let me count. You see my binders?
Yep.
So I started putting these together. This is my complete work. So this is all the broke down issues. This is because we had so many fucking covers of Voodoo Nations. This is full. All the Cthulhu Invades Oz and then my other stuff, and then I have another other stuff that I need to put together of my trades, so like this Mississippi Zombies, the Cthulhu is hard to spell and all that together, creating that stuff and all of that, even though I create things all the time and I'm in new books all the time, I've got a new book live right now. Carol Prime is live on Kickstarter. I just finished up Blood Skulls and Chrome, doing a couple issues there. It's just not me yet, I've got to create stuff, and then once I create one, it's not enough. Like I need to create a portfolio to show to somebody. So I don't know if it'll ever be done, but I need. It's such a thing that I need to do.
Yeah. I think for me, I've mentioned this 1,000 times. It's a badge. That's a big one for me, but it's a badge. And so, finishing for you is a badge. And I would feel the same way. I don't think I have it on the same feeling. I think we differ there, and that's okay. That's a personal thing. I think we all have we see imposter syndrome and we feel it in different ways, but we all feel it. It's just different. So just because that doesn't necessarily affect me in the same way certainly does not mean that I don't deal with that.
And let me tell you how it affects me too. So my last campaign I ran for 18 days, I did really good, close to $6,000. But really, I should have done a 3-week campaign. I should have done more, but I just wanted to finish. So it's it's a thing when you make not necessarily great business decisions because.
Yeah, and I love that because.
Go ahead.
No, you.
Because I could have used an extra week on that campaign. I wouldn't have gone 30, but an extra week I think would have made a difference.
Yeah, you're not going to Indiegogo it and add another fucking.
I try to blah blah blah. Yeah, I only did that for Cthulhu Invades Oz just because I know there's a lot of people who really wanted that book and it was out around Christmas. That's the only reason why I did it.
Yeah,
it's done well over there.
Yep. I mean, not Kickstarter well, but it did well.
Right. I think it's almost $1,000. That's great. But I'm going to get that beer, and you can answer Bruno's question because that's a question that's just for you.
All right, Dogs, that's enough. Okay. So Bruno asked, who is the publisher for Essence House? Essence House was a joint publishing venture by My Bonfire Press and Eric, who is the other co-author, Eric's Studio Airboat. So that's what that was. And then Davey came on. He said, similar relationship with Moms on Reading and Writing at an early age. Chuck, cheers. Thank you, buddy. Cheers to you as well, homie. Clink to your beer. Yeah, man, like just a big deal. Becca, are you going to bed?
Yes.
Good night. I love you very much. I'm live, but that's fine. I'll give you a hug and then you can go.
Tell you I already went to bed.
Okay. Good night. This comment got away from me. Put your mic piece down. You sound. Oh yes. Sorry. Thank you. Yes. I don't know why I moved it. Something was all up in my grill. Thanks. Mike did the mic drop and dropped Kara Prime. So for those of you who are either big Travis fans and want you're a completionist, which I get. I'm a bit of a completionist myself. Or it turns out that you're a fan of Kara Prime itself, Loggerhead, all that kind of stuff, Brian Silverbacks, or any of the other incredibly talented people on there. I believe John Hedrick's on there. My boy Dave Galliano, our boy Dave Galliano. Who else is on there that we like?
We've got the Metal Shark Bros.
The Metals. Oh, that's right. That's Kevin Cuff and Frank. Bob Franks. Yeah, that's right.
Who else we got in there? Alton Shipson. You and I, we don't really go into his realm, but he's a peer in the industry. Like
absolutely.
I think that's it. Trying to think of anybody else. A lot of our Cthulhu Invades Oz artists, like Robbie Bragdon, CF Lawrence is in there. Those guys are doing some stuff. But yeah, there's cool people in there.
My kiddo came in and said goodnight to me, so everyone's making the little jokes. Yeah, you guys can all have hugs and kisses. I'll see you in Dallas, hon. I'll give you a hug and a kiss goodnight. I'll probably save one for your hubby too. Uh, he hasn't let literary fame go to his head. Still a family guy. Yeah, I guess. Um, so we've been all into that. Why don't we play with the business aspect of what are we drinking now? Same?
Same, but I'm making drips, so I'm gonna have to get a napkin, which sucks. It's embarrassing.
And so much less head.
But less head.
Well, I mean, if you just get it and get it and get it, then yeah, I get it. So let's play into the business aspect of things more, because you and I, again, same thing. Something that you and I love to do, and this is so much fun, is we're Kickstarter speculators.
Yes.
Because what you guys might not know about us is we talk about Kickstarters all the time. Because what happens is, especially with you get to know a lot of these people, you understand what you feel like they can make, and how well, and so it creates kind of this currency. Like, you're like, ooh, okay, I think this book can get to this if they're working in their way and doing things the way they do and whatnot, or if they do things, in a certain way, they can get to this. And we tend to do that. And I would say, actually, barring anything really unusual, we're actually pretty good at getting in a pretty good range there. Like, you're able to kind of look at someone and go, you're going to bring that to a book.
Yeah. Sadly, yeah, absolutely. And there's always, for instance, Boston Metaphysical right now, the numbers that she's reaching on this campaign versus her other ones is crazy.
Yeah.
And watching this. So sometimes there's breakout hits like that. Absolutely. There's prospecting that we do, and we talk about that. It's not to be offensive. It's to understand what they're doing well.
Yes.
And if we can predict the numbers, we know. All right, we know what they're doing. We know how they got there. Let's move on. Let's figure out if they break our expectations or do less. We need to figure out why. Was there? If it's a last, what did they do wrong that we don't know about? Can we figure that out? What did they do right if they do more that we don't know about? Can we figure that out so we can use it on ours?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, is when you're able to see that in other people, you're able to bring that into your own business. I think that's something really important. Sam came in and he said, why would you all do Kickstarter as a middleman? I know it didn't work very well for you, Sam, but I have to say that for neither of us is Kickstarter the be all end all finish all. Like, that's not the funny thing is that Travis and I have very similar goals, but we're going about it in very different ways. And we both have different things that Travis is an excellent publisher. It is something that, and I'm not even sure that it's necessarily something that he loves to do, but he's very good at it. He has done an excellent job at getting his books into stores, making relationships with stores, which is huge. And that's something that we need to consider and look into more. And that's something that I have not been good at. I'm not excited about. I don't love that aspect of it. And I recognize that in myself. I see it. So I don't think, I think that, Sam, we see Kickstarter differently than you do. And yeah.
You're not going to like what I'm going to say, Sam, and I apologize.
I'm trying not to say it myself, so go.
But I'm going to say it, Sam. It's Kickstarter's not a middleman. They are my distributor. They are 100% who I distribute my comics through. There is a fan base on Kickstarter. You may not have found that fan base, but I've found it, and I use it, and I use it as a platform to go, I know that there is readers here. Not only are there readers here, there is readers here that are willing to invest in me on any level that I create my book. I honor that commitment of that investment by making sure my book is almost done every time I go to Kickstarter. So I don't have to wait a long time from that. But I could go on Kickstarter because I built trust literally with a concept right now and 2 pages of art and produce about the same. Will I do that? No, I absolutely won't do that because I built that audience, and that's what Kickstarter does. They're willing to invest in you on such a level, you want the creator to help you grow. And now how you do that and how you get that growth, unfortunately, there's a lot of other variables to that. One, it's quality of work. Two, it's your personality and what kind of relationships you build. Three, it's relationship with other names. You'll never notice. All my campaigns, I add new names. Why? It's because it's a new fan base. I am adding a new fan base to my Kickstarters every time I do one because I want to see if any of my stuff resonates with them. So I use Kickstarter as a distribution model to get my work out to people. And I view that as my fan base. In my mind, up until the latest couple of Kickstarters, I was stuck at 150 backers, meaning that's basically my fan base. Regardless of what I did, it was about 150 backers. Now I've gone up to 600 and something for Cthulhu, and then back down to 274. Now I've got about 250, so I've gained about 100 backers. So I'm at 250 and trying to get that and get through that process and building that. But that's my fan base, and I use the model of getting 1,000 true fans to make this a career. That is 100% a goal. And I've been harassed. You remember that somebody got mad at me when I talked about this on a chat, one of the groups that I mentioned this. But it should be everybody's goal. You should want to make this a career if this is your passion. And I want it to be a passion. So I am looking for those thousands of fans. And I know they're out there. And the easiest and quickest way for me to get them that I have control over is Kickstarter. Because if Bonfire Press, we'll use Chuck as an example, decides to publish my book, it's up to Bonfire Press to get that word out of there. Yes, I can help, but it's up to them to do it. No different from Scout, no different from SourcePoint, no different from Marvel and DC. It's up to getting my name out there. I have to take that responsibility. It's way harder when I don't know how Bonfire Press does their thing. Chuck always talked to me about, I have a partner. I've never met Chuck's partner. I know Chuck, right? And I don't just believe that he has a partner. I don't know this guy. I don't know his motives. I don't know if he likes me. He may think I'm a fucking asshole. I don't know. He may go, I don't want your book on Bonfire Press. There's quality books with the last name Pinu because it sounds like a wine.
It does. Yep. Which fits into the whole alcohol theme.
Right. So that's kind of my rant there. Your goal should be to find that thousands of fans. And your goal before you jump to Kickstarter is to have 50 fans, 50 people who will buy your book. And I know that's really hard. And I'm sorry that that's really hard because it is really hard. It is no small task. But how you do that is you talk about your book every day and show people your love and your passion for your book. And don't make excuses.
Yeah.
Right, sorry. What did he say?
He came on. He said, I went with a company to promote, was trying to build the audience. Do you recommend going with a company? Look, I'm going to be dead blunt honest. I've used companies before. In fact, I believe that the company that helped us with Belial, did they do most of the work? No, that was me and Sean. Sean and I brought in the brunt of but they certainly helped. And I appreciate what they did, and the deal that we made for us, I believe worked. I had no problem giving up what I did, and I believe that I got more than what I gave up. So I'm happy. So that worked for me. Sam, I don't know who you used, but they failed. And I don't know how to say it nicely. Because you should have done better than you did if there was a company who had your back. So do I think that you can use companies that work? Yes. But you have to find a company that actually works. And that's the problem. There's a lot of people out there who will gladly take your money and say, I'll get you people. But how are they going to do that? Do they have anything to prove that they've ever done that for anyone ever? How are they going to do that? Like all that kind of stuff. You should have a million questions for anyone who is going to ask. And, I would almost want to tell a company like that, look, if you're going to do that, we're going to do it like a commission, which means, motherfucker, you have to sell. This Kickstarter has to happen, has to fund for you to get your money. It's treat it like, in my mind, I would treat it almost like a lawyer.
Right.
One of those lawyers who's like, look, if you want your part of the settlement, I have to get it. I have to win. That's my thought. What about you, homie?
So it's a hard thing, especially when you look at when you look at people like Chuck and I at our level. And I'm going to say we're at a level, because we're at a level, we're at the known Kickstarter creators. That's where level we're going to put us. Though both of us have been published in Diamond. We're not known as Diamond creators. We're known as very high producing Kickstarter creators. Mm-hmm. The problem is Chuck and I are making new contacts every day if we're doing our jobs right. So if I hired a company, I don't know if they produced anything because I did a lot of legwork and I did a lot of stuff prior to that I don't know. I can't ever predict that. And my Kickstarters have proven to be unpredictable. They jump around a lot based on my energy, my efforts. A good night on Kickstarter. There was a time when Chuck and I used to go, all right, we need $100 on our Kickstarter. We'd go live, we'd get $100. I still think we could do that, sometimes even more. But the algorithms are different now. It's not the same as it was. It may not be. In fact, Chuck's views on this, I can't see them right now, but they were higher when we started and they're lower now. It's not because less people are interested. It's that because Facebook thinks we're old news, so they moved on to other people who are live, who went live at 11 o'clock instead of now.
We're in the dead zone.
Okay. Yeah, that's what happens. And it's again, not because people don't want to hear what we have to say. If you look at, and I know these records because I do these statistics, Chuck and I, if we're on a show, is guaranteed to get you at least 100 views, period. At least 100. Not crazy amounts more, but at least 100. Because we have enough, at least 100 people going out. So going back to whether or not someone should be a company, I think there are companies that could do good, but basically make some parameters. I don't think you need to work on commission necessarily, like Chuck said, but I think make some parameters. Cool. Well, I want you to get me on 6 shows. Here's the shows that I'm already going to be on. I want to be on 6 shows. I want to make sure that you post this many times and then hold them accountable for all of the stuff that they say they're going to do. If they say they're going to send you onto an email list, that's great. Figure out what that is. For instance, my email list is basically born off of broke down and a little bit of voodoo. Let's actually back up before I had voodoo before Cthulhu. So it was just broke down. Chuck had Baal coming out. I shared his thing on my Kickstarter list, but it didn't really do a lot. It got him a couple of backers, but it wasn't the same audience. They're not the same audience. Now that I have Voodoo and Cthulhu, there's probably a little bit more trade. You'd probably get a better judge, but figure out what that person has. Because a lot of times what they're doing is they're going to post about you on their campaign. Well, my email list is based off of me. It's based off the relationship I built. I had a creator once come to me and said, Chuck said that you can get into scores. Can you give me the list of all the stores you go into? First, I told him, fuck no. And then I said, I'm sorry, that was a little harsh. Sure, I'll give it to you. But I'm telling you right now, you're going to get 0 results. And he's like, why? You got into them. Because I did that work. I built that relationship. And you don't know how I did that. Because each of them are completely different. Some of them, I just paid attention to their chats. I joined their chats and was part of their community. And they were like, hey, I like this guy. He's a creator. Some of them, I've been to their store and was a customer there for years. Some of them, it's because they're in my driving distance and they'll know I'll do a signing and promote it. Some of them have online shops that are really good. All of those relationships, I know the nitty gritty in that. What you want is a fucking email list that you blast out and they say yes. I can't give you that. That's not what I have. And no one has that. Spoiler alert. If you want to be a cover from a store, you need to do the work and be in a relationship with that store. Unless you're Something Killing the Children, fucking crossover, or some major publication, they're not interested.
It's funny. Actually, Sam, I would say that you said something really smart. This is the smartest thing you said. Part of me feels it was your fault. Good. Own that. Because I'll tell you that there's been different times in the 4 or 5 years that Travis and I have known each other where we have looked at the other guy and said, I fucked that one up. I totally fucked that one up. And I'm sure both of us are going to different moments where we said it to the other guy and we said that was and even when you still made your goal and all that kind of stuff, you still knew it was a failure because you knew you could have done better. You knew where you fucked up. You knew where the screw up was. Great. Find where your fuck ups are, own them, and learn from them and move on. That's huge. That is the best way to fucking learn.
Right.
I mean, it's a shitty way to learn, but it is the best way to learn because, we say this in poker all the time because you guys know I'm a big poker fan. And I'll tell you, you learn nothing from the hands that you win. Because at least part of what happened to you, part of why you won was luck. But when you fail, when you lose a hand, yes, there's a good chance part of that was luck, but there's also a good chance that you done fucked up. What did you do to not win that hand? What did you do to not win that game? Which hands did you play badly? Which things did you do wrong? All that stuff, all those failures make you better. The wins really don't. All the wins do is make you look better in other people's minds, but they do nothing for you.
Right. And one of the things that Chuck and I do well that's strategic is what I'll say. I don't quite know the word is. We look at what that win actually means. For instance, if someone has a $10,000 Kickstarter and Chuck, what was bail? 6? It was almost 6, right?
Yeah, just under 6, 58 okay. Something.
Yeah, it was almost 6. I can prove to you several $10,000 Kickstarters that Chuck did way better than, even though on paper it doesn't look that way, because I can look at his backer count. I can look at how much those other motherfuckers charge for shipping, because there's people who charge $10 to $15 to $20 for shipping. So if you factor that out of the campaign, because Chuck is a reasonable guy and charges the 5 or 4 or 0, depending on what it is, you can factor that things up, or extra things that mistakes that Chuck has made. One of the mistakes that Chuck made early on was T-shirts for Welcome to the Void. Knowing the cost of those and the extra shipping costs and all those extra costs, we can weed that stuff out. And sometimes, Sam, that's a question you just get to ask. Hey, how do I know if this is a good Kickstarter or bad? And we can kind of take it apart for you, or somebody can. And once you see the mechanism of it, you don't fall for the trick anymore. There was when Chuck and I first started talking about this, we're like, wow, look at this money. This guy made tons of money. Look at that, great. And then we started looking at the backer count. That guy made $10,000 and 54 backers. Something's wrong. And then we can look through KickTrack, and somehow they get a spike of like $4,000 in a day. And either one person's super invested or somebody put money in that.
Yeah.
So those are things that you can factor in and try to figure it out. The other thing is when you're picking variant artists or anything, figure out people who share. If I choose you as a variant artist, it's because I believe that you are going to bring something in, or at least pay my money back for that Kickstarter by sharing, by promoting. And sometimes I'm wrong. We're all wrong on those things. And sometimes we're right. And sometimes a random guy on Kickstarter who we're like, you really want to do a cover, who we didn't think we were going to produce at all, produces better than our heavy paid for covers. It's all a crapshoot. But it's, again, knowing those hands, like you bring that poker analogy. Chuck talked about knowing that bad play. It's knowing those bad plays that you played the first round of the game, of the tournament, before that mattered too. Those plays that you played where you went all in and bullied the pot early, they started distrusting you right early on, and that distrust never went away.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely true. We can't. Davey says, I come from the book publishing world, and kickstarting a comic, which is more like running a business, doesn't appeal to me. Should I just drink until I am ready for success and try to kickstart my comic, or is more traditional publishing still a viable route? Huh.
Yes, to both. Publishers want fan bases. Fan bases are found on Kickstarter because that shows the publisher that you have a fan base. And that fan base doesn't need to be as large as you think, but you do need to show that you have some.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And some people do that through Webtoons or through other alternatives that aren't Kickstarter, but I like money to help me produce the next thing. So that's why I chose Kickstarter. But I could have done the same thing and got the same result of my goal, which is to be with another publisher, which is crazy. Like, here's one of the secrets. Chuck, let's just share the secret. Chuck and I want other people to pay for our fucking stuff, to
100%.
pay for us to work. That is our secret. Though we love self-publishing, if someone gave us a contract, we're probably going to work for them. And I've even done it and fucked up.
But it doesn't change. That's definitely what we want. Yeah. I like some control.
Yeah.
But it's also really important to me. There's a safety net that comes along with it. And there's the fact that I can hopefully bring my fan base here, add it onto theirs, and that can take me to the next level.
Right.
And I can that is the hill for us, at least, the hill of the snowball effect.
Right.
So our fan bases was us grabbing that snow and piling it into a nice, and then the idea is that the comic shops and the publisher and all that is your hill.
Right.
Now, you might find that you take it to a publisher and it just goes tits up.
Right.
There's several things that could be. That's not you, but now you have to look. Did the publisher not push you at all? So were they not helpful at all? Did you just sit up? Because I've seen this so many times, and you and I both bitch about this, Travis, where someone will go, "Great, a publisher's involved. They'll do the work." No, that is such a fuck up, guys. The snowball was what you did,
right?
By creating the snowball and throwing it on the hill. That's terrific, but when you don't push the book to your fans, you're not putting the snowball on the hill. You're blowing on the hill and hoping that the snow will gather and turn into a snowball. And it really doesn't work like that.
And everybody has a crutch, something that they're not good at. For instance, my last Kickstarter was 276 backers, but I only raised like 6,000. On average, if you have 276 backers, you're going to be in the $10,000 range. I'm behind. So that means I don't value myself in my pledge levels. That's really what it means. I am not putting the value on it that's actually worth, because I could get to those numbers. It sucks, but it is. Yes, push the book. But yeah, it's doing that. But the people who make it, I'm going to start at indie level right now, and then I'm going to go to the main publishing ones. So people in indie who are doing great things. Frank Gall just from Dead End Kids just got that Power Ranger deal. Great thing. Richard Duaz, who did Wailing Blades, just got the IDW deal. John Lees just got the IDW deal. We have Bob Sally on SourcePoint, who's getting more and more books through SourcePoint every year. We've got even Jonathan Hendricks. Look at Jonathan Hendricks from getting to Scout and then doing the second site. Getting into these publishers, even though they're small, continue to do that snowball. Now go to the pro, and you'll notice the same pattern. Brian Michael Bendis has built a fan base of a chat room since his beginning, since the start of everything. Neil Gaiman has had a blog that he responds to people on his blog since the beginning. Jeff Johns does the same thing. All these people are continuing to build relationships with their fans, and that's what makes them the top guys. Donnie Cates had several podcasts and stuff like that, and he built that fan base. It wasn't just his writing. His writing fucking kept him there, absolutely. But it's because they continued to build their fan base, and they didn't stop when they got to Marvel. They didn't stop when they got to DC. They didn't stop when they get to Scout, because this happens from Scout and SourcePoint too. In fact, I'll share a story. I'm good friends with a publisher over at Scout, and he told me the story of someone calling up in the middle of a thing going, "Hey, why didn't I get a second print, but this other book got a second print?" And he's like, "Because the other book sold out. Because they were out fucking hustling. Why you were not. And that's why their book sold out and yours didn't, and that's why they're continuing. That Mad Cave Their fucking deal is shit. It's a horrible deal. Sorry if this gets me out of a Mad Cave deal. I apologize. But their deal is crap. They pay you, and you own zero rights to any of the properties. The guy who did Nottingham, not only is he killing it, he's on like the third print of issue 1, second print of issue 2. Unknown stuff in Mad Cave. Because you know what? The guy fucking pushed it, even though he didn't own it. Because that's what you got to do. I was on a chat with Kara Prime at 7 o'clock tonight. That's an anthology. I just did a 5-page story. You know what I was doing? I was helping promote it with Brian Silverback because that's what you do. Doesn't matter if it's the smallest thing you do or the biggest thing you do, because that's what it's about. It's making sure that you get
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It was the same as I remember, and I guess this is me tooting my own horn, but I remember I will toot. I shall toot, my friend. I was doing that was the time when I was doing Belial 2, I was doing Essence House and Cthulhu Invades Oz. And you hit me up and you were like, hey man, there's this one live stream that I can't do right now. I have some stuff. I think you had some family stuff come up or whatever. Would you jump on? Like, you can use that for your other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I still made Cthulhu Invades Oz the main thing because that was the main reason. I had respect for that. And to be fair, though, yes, I had an 8-page story. So in the grand scheme of it all, I'm not necessarily, but I'm also the editor of it. Like there's a lot of ownership that I've been given in that book. So in some ways I do own that book in a lot more ways than maybe other people will. But he's right though. It's so important for us to own those projects. Hell, me as an editor. Guys, I'm just an editor. Editors don't fucking talk about their shit. But the reason I have a fan base is because most of those books I push. And there's books where people have literally picked it up and went, whoa, Chuck edited this? You name another editor where you can pick up a book and go, whoa, this guy edited it? Like, that just doesn't happen a lot. And that's because I pushed myself as an editor. I pushed my name when I'm on the little 4-pagers, 2-pagers, all that kind of stuff. You have to always push. That's the fucking job, man. And if you're not ready for that, you might not be ready for this, because that is a huge part of going from indie to the big boys. These guys that he mentioned, John Lees, fucking Frank Gogol, Bob Sally, all those motherfuckers push. All of those motherfuckers push. And so you have to recognize, if that's what you want for yourself, that's the shit. And that was a lesson I learned very on. Fucking push.
And using SourcePoint as a reference, I once went to someone and said, I think I want to be a SourcePoint writer. Maybe even you, Chuck. And I said, I want to be a SourcePoint writer because they push their creators. And someone pointed out, they're like, no, they don't. They come out with 13 books a month and you only know 5 creators. Those creators push the shit out of their stuff, and they use SourcePoint as a reference to help them. You know them because they did the work. And they do really good at promoting them and SourcePoint, and not as much their book. It's interesting, and trying to figure all that out.
Davey, are you going to be in Florida?
He is in Florida, yep.
Oh, buddy. May 1st, come to the Collective. I'll sign the shit out of whatever you've got, brother. Anything that has my name on it shall get signed. Don't you worry about it. Sam, thank you. I love hanging out with you too. And you know what? Whenever we get on these rants, you need to understand something. Like Travis and I, especially when it's just the 2 of us talking, we will talk so much shit, but it's because we're so passionate about this business. We would love for everybody to do well. Even the people I don't like, it would help the business if we all did well. But at the end of the day, you got to own your moves. You got to own your failures and your victories. You got to recognize that. That's the only way you're going to get better. And so, when we're up here going, motherfucker, you got to push. We're not we're almost like, I'm like the fattest trainer out there. You know what I mean? Like, we're almost like fitness trainers, where we're like, no. If you have a goal, this is what you got to push. So that's why we're yelling at you, but we're yelling with all the love. We really are.
Well, it's a passion thing, and that's one of the things that I agreed when we decided to do this is, really, really get there and be passionate about it. And like, I wanted to take off the mask and not just have a good time because, oh, it's great, but stuff. And one of the things that I love about Chuck and I, as long as you haven't screwed us or someone in our community together, we're going to do whatever we can to help you within the means. Sometimes you may have to pay us, and we're sorry about that, but that's life. Other times you just got to tell us. But advice is always free for both of us. If you just need some advice, not a problem. But I don't say no. If you have a writing gig, hey Travis, and I've done this. Hey, I need 4-page backup. Can you help me write it? Absolutely. We can work on a deal for comps, and I'll write that 4-page backup. If my name will help you, let's do it, man. Let's help each other out. And I know Chuck's the same way. If his name can help you, let's do it, man. Let's get out. Doesn't hurt you. But what's difference is, when someone comes at me, like the guy who demanded my comic book list, that's not going to happen. I did my work. Davey asked my email list. How many is that? You don't need to know that, Davey. But I will tell you that I pay for MailChimp. So that can be an idea. But yeah, that doesn't matter how big a mailing list, because Chuck and I both know people who brag about their fucking mailing list, and we also know that we've had our stuff promoted on their mailing list, and it's fucking shit. It's not worth it. My list is handmade. It wasn't bought. Not a single one was bought. It was earned with blood, sweat, and tears from everything that I've got. So, and it means a lot to me, and I protect it. And when you have an email list, you protect it. Yeah, it's super important.
Seer Nova said, I still got to read Cthulhu Invades Oz. Dude, you do. Like, in all honesty, I'm very passionate about that book. Like I said, I've read that book more times than most other people. And it holds up so well. It's one of those books where anytime you're in anthology, it's fun because you get to look around, you get to go, oh, that's the shitty story. Like, you get to do Cthulhu Invades Oz isn't like that. It's everybody else trying to raise that bar, really, and never by pushing other people down. It's just like everybody is doing this really cool thing, and they're all trying to go over the bar. And some people get to it, some people jump over it, but everybody is working at it, and
Right.
Everybody is putting out really good stuff. So there's no stories in there where you go, that's shit. I mean, even there's
Sure.
poetry in there, and it's so easy to ignore the poetry. But holy fuck, man, Dave Greshel did such good work. Even reading those poems were terrific. He went over every person's story and gave it a new look, and looked at that story in it from a new perspective, and gave it, a bunch of lines of love. And that
Right.
was really cool. So yeah, man, that book, man, it's an absolute must read. And we already sold it to you. You don't need to read it, but I'm telling you, it really is one.
No, I have hardcovers if he's interested.
Right? Yeah, if you need a better version or whatever.
By the way, May 1st, we could do a full signing.
We'll be there. Jerome said, just look at Tom King or Scott Snyder. They push their books very well on Twitter. All over the place. Yeah, absolutely they do. Josh says, it's a fantastic world if we all do well. That all said, most of us fail because of our own actions. Owning that makes you move forward. There's other mitigating factors that can fuck you. Knowing them helps. There was some people who they were there when let's say their campaign was ending in March of last year. They might have gotten rocked a little bit out of fear on Kickstarter. That might have happened, and there's not a lot you can do about that. You own what you can, and you get to excuse what you couldn't.
And
but
one of the other things, Josh, is figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
Kickstarter works really good for Chuck and I, but Indiegogo is a viable platform.
Oh, yeah.
You'll see me give it shit all the time. You will. But at the end of the day, there are people who produce and live and die just like I do on Kickstarter. But I don't know that audience. So if you come to me and say, hey, can you help me with your Indiegogo? I can't help you. I don't know that audience. I don't resonate with that audience. I don't try to sell the same thing, but that doesn't mean that they're not viable, career-going stuff. But I will tell you this. If your goal is like Chuck and I to be published by other people, You don't see a lot of those from Indiegogo being published other places, but you do see a lot on Kickstarter. So I will say that.
And again, that's not a knock on Kickstarter. That's
on Indiegogo. You mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just the way it is. You know what I mean? It just it's reality, and you just kind of have to look at it and go, well, that is what it is. And that's not to say that it doesn't happen. It's just
no, absolutely.
Yeah. Because it didn't didn't Sylvester Stallone's book end up getting picked up by
Sure,
no?
But it's the fucking Expendables,
Well, yeah. I know. I'm just saying. Obviously.
There's always exceptions. There's always exceptions to these rules. There's absolutely exceptions.
Trish says that she has a surprise being shipped to Rob's house for us on May 1st. We'll have to see what that is. Yeah. I actually kind of know what it is, but I'm not allowed to talk about it.
See, Trish, you should just send it to me. Yeah. Chuck and I can enjoy
That's what I told her.
By herself.
That's what I told her.
Because Chuck is staying at my house.
Davey Lee, Bill Burr is a comedian who talked about the comedy business in the same light. He said Kevin Hart from the beginning built those relationships he nurtured. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that shit absolutely matters.
It works in any business. It doesn't matter what business. It doesn't have to be comics. It works in all businesses. That's why I run a website company. I can just pay for ads if I wanted to get clients. But you know where I get better clients? By going to the chambers and networking with people. It's just reality. It's just the way the world works.
Sam asks, should I push my comic or my manga or just put them together? First off, I don't think I'd put them together.
Right.
Comic fans aren't necessarily basically it's a Venn diagram, man, of comic fans and manga fans. And though they are both comics, they are separated in a sense. And so what you're going to get is that niche in the middle rather than being able to get both when you separate them. So I think you need to figure out what you do better and which audience you can appeal to better. And that's what you should be making. If you're making comics because you like comics, but maybe you don't, look, the novel, okay? I grew up loving novels, always wanted to make a novel, always thought I would make a novel, but I went to comics first. Travis grew up, again, loved comics too, but he wanted to be a filmmaker, did all that stuff, but he went to comics first. And that's because both of us recognized the singular fact that comics was where we excelled. That was where we're best. Yes, I've got a prose book, and that's great. Do I think that I could stand up tall with the rest of these prose people and just do prose? I'll tell you, I fucking can't. I will do it, and I will continue to put up books now and then, but not like these people. That's just not in my blood.
And same thing with film. I'm not great at sound. Sound is very important. If my sound comes back bad, I have no interest in doing that film. I have no interest in doing that scene, and that happened over and over in film school. My lighting was good, my stuff, but I just didn't understand. I couldn't grasp sound. Sound engineering wasn't a thing that I was good at. So I fucking, couldn't. I could hire someone eventually make that work. But again, it's very frustrating, and I'm not going to put out shit. I'm not going to put out low quality. I've gone to independent film festivals where you can't understand half of what they're saying. It's just not worth it. Yes, Sam, I've made several films.
You made silent films?
I've made several films. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I should actually put them up there. In fact, maybe I'll look for it for the trade.
Or YouTube or something. Like throw some of your films up on YouTube. Did I lose you? All right. Well, that gets dealt with. Sam said, "Do y'all use?" Oh, okay. Do y'all use platforms like Kindle? I am right now for Essence House. It will be out there through Kindle and whatnot. But that's not on my comics yet. What about you, Trav?
I lost you for a minute. What was the question?
Kindle. Do you use it at all for your comics?
I don't, but I do plan on it. But I do know that Kindle is very expensive, meaning to keep in the rankings, to keep getting views and things, you've got to basically pay to play if you're not really. So I do use Comixology. I do use Comicology and a few other platforms like that. But yeah. And to answer my question, I don't know if you heard me. I made several films. In fact, I should actually go through my files, and I'll try to before Broke Down's done. But I have Broke Down and Four Dead Bodies as a short. So I should probably put that together. Maybe I can add it to the rewards for the trade paperback.
That would be cool. I would love that, dude.
Yeah.
And you know what? That was something when you were talking earlier about doing the shorts and adding our names and whatnot. When you mentioned that you wanted some new voices for the trade, I jumped on that right away. I was like, yeah. And that one was twofold for me, though. One, Travis is my boy. I want to help any way I can, so of course I would jump on. The other one is I really love that series, and so having the old Chuck fingerprint somewhere in that series and being able to say like, that's my little piece. That's the thing that I did. I love that. I love being able to do that. And yes, I've been able to help with. We talk about stuff behind the scenes and whatnot, but people won't necessarily see that and go, "Oh, that's a Chuck thing," because of course it's then. Even when I do say, "Oh, you should do that," it's still filtered through Travis. But when I get to write a script, and when you guys get to see what I did, you'll be able to look at that and go, "Okay, that's a Chuck story."
Well, and I think that's something interesting to say. You know, when I give it, so I've given Chuck credit as a consultant, and basically that's not using Chuck's editing services. That's talking through a problem that I have with the story and talking it through. And it's not even that I always use Chuck's advice 100%. It's talking that story out so it makes sense, and that I have another ear who cares about the story. You know, it's important to care. My wife, when she goes through as the proper editor, she loves Broke Down. She loves the story. I mean, she buys art for it. She does all sorts of really cool things. But her job is to make me look better. That's a different thing. Chuck doesn't care about me looking better. Chuck's like, is this story the story you're trying to tell? Does it fit that narrative? And we're talking that out and trying to figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, Chuck is my editor and happily got 12 pages of pens and inks and books coming along. Maybe with 2, I will hire Travis to write something so I can add his name to my book. Not a bad idea at all, man. I know he would probably love to do that. Davey, Travis, I would be a great silent film actor. My face can be very goofy.
Well, I'm not doing film anymore, but good to know.
Right. If we're ever on a show together, we know that, you know, if your sound goes out, you're still going to be very entertaining.
Right. I just want to be, you know, if I finally make it, you know, I want to be able to go to the set and go, no, I have a film degree. Let me sit there. So I can sit in a director's chair and feel like I have a place there. I'll probably get bored in a couple minutes, go to the food trade and let the real director take over.
I would probably grab my producer chair and bring it over to the craft services table.
Though I have toyed with the idea, and I may do it at one point, doing a comic series as with a writing group, and doing it like a film series where we meet up and we get together and we do a 12-issue arc that we all agree on with one concept and kind of write individual issues, because I think that would be cool, kind of doing the TV show approach to comic books.
I love that. I mean, that's how we made Essence House. So yeah, I mean, it's only 2 people, but yeah, I would love that. That's a fun idea. Right. I think that's a great idea. Braden said, not going to lie, this is probably one of the best episodes you have. So much inspiration is in here, and it's nice to listen to something like that while being able to say the F word. I mean, we said it earlier. We both give a shit. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's why I haven't been on in a long time. Chuck and I get along. We have a really good episode, but Chuck needed to find his ground of what this looks like and not be on a crush. Chuck and I have very similar fan bases, so I don't help his fan base that much. And I'm not trying to say that the negatives. There is people who like Chuck, don't like me, and vice versa. Absolutely, on that case. But Chuck and I, when we talk, it's going to get very serious, and it's going to change the course. And he needed to figure out what the show was before we stopped. It was a very early on decision. And the other thing is, I held myself off for a long time because I was like, Chuck, you can just tell me to be there. Like, I'm going to be there. Like, just tell me a Tuesday and I'm going to be there. It doesn't matter. So it's good that Chuck always had me. Hey, I need you on a Tuesday. Like, somebody cares.
Eventually, it got to the point where I'm like, hey, man, I'm backed up. Like, there's a bunch of people here if you want in anytime soon. So it's nice to have you in for that big 20th. Because as Andrew said early on, that's such an important number, supposedly. So that's really cool. Let's see what's going on.
Well, I was supposed to have Voodoo Nations. That's up to share. I was supposed to have Voodoo Nations out at this time. It just didn't work out.
Yeah, that's right. Mike says
comics are crazy.
Right? Mike says, Travis, this is the nicest time I have ever been turned down for writing something. I felt amazing even when he went another way. And that's important, I think.
Right.
Really well. I think. I'm really happy with this story, and Chris Madd's fucking awesome. And he, in fact, came to me and was so excited by the first panel that he said, "Can we add an extra page on top?" And I said, "Yeah, probably. Let's just do it." And he said, "Really?" I said, "I'll throw it by Travis, but getting an extra page of art by you, that benefits everybody. So let's do it." So
right.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Chris Madd is very talented. He's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. Davey, if you ever want to see the script, because you're in with us, hit me up, homie. I'd share it with you. Trav, do you ever feel like you're doing this alone? And how do you feel wearing all the hats?
Yes, all the time. I am doing it alone. It's very frustrating. But what I've learned, and it breaks my heart, what I've learned is I'm not alone. I'm really not. I have a huge team, and I've got to trust them. Cthulhu Invades Oz was the hardest thing in the world because I got to a point after it was sold, after it is the money, and Chuck and Heather were going, the book's not ready. We need to edit it. And every day, all I want to do is fucking get it up to the backers. Every day, I want to get it up to the backers because I don't give a shit about it. I don't give a shit. But I care about the book, and they're fighting me on stuff that I feel passionate about, but I trust them. So, like, at the end of the day, you've got to let go and allow it to do. But yeah, of course, I feel like I'm wearing out, and I am. I'm the marketer and I'm the writer of all these things, and it breaks my heart. And I shared this in a post the other day that I sometimes feel that I just sold you a talent because that's what comes with that.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that. I agree on so many levels. I mean, yeah, we have our teams and the people who are in our corners and all that, but at the end of the day, you are also alone. Like you're both, it reminds me of when I was 19 and I moved from a small town, like a little small country town, to Toronto, which is the biggest city in my country. And I moved to Toronto. I lived there, and I told someone that I was lonely, and they were like, "You're surrounded by millions of people." I was like, "Yeah," and I'm fucking lonely because no one gives a shit about me. You have to make them give a shit about you. It's work. You have to go out there and make it matter and all that kind of shit, and it's brutal. So I think it's very much the same thing.
How was it when I was really deep into that conversation and then just froze?
I did. That fucked me up. I was like, "Well, keep talking."
Where did I end? Where did I end? I'm sorry.
Oh, you actually went all the way, and then I moved on past you. I got all of your stuff. Yeah.
So you got because that I am alone and that
Yep. No, you did good, and then I just added on. I didn't even notice.
So I got to the point where I feel fake.
Yep.
Okay. Move on.
Yeah. No, you did good. Sam says, I just keep coming. It would be nice having a team someday. And yeah, it'll absolutely happen.
But at the end of the day, it's not there. Like I'm not going to be crappy. You can have a team and more people who have your back, absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's going to be you showing up over and over again.
Yeah.
But you can have people who have your back. Chuck has my back.
Absolutely, and vice versa.
Writing group. You're in my writing group, Davey. He comes to my local writing group. I don't know what the fuck he's talking
about. Jeff says he loves collaborative writing. Absolutely, so much fun.
He may love that fucking penguin. Look at that, Jeff. Come on now, seriously.
I mean, we don't know what's going on between them. There's a relationship there. You can tell. Jerome has an idea for that writing group. Well, yeah, we know.
I know. I got to write that idea for that writing group, Jerome.
What do we have? Davey says, I teach short stories at the Oviedo Mall. Come on down. We would love to read your stories. That's a neat idea. Good for you, Davey.
I don't know how that works, but.
Right? That's neat, though. Trish loves your coffee, your morning coffees, which those are fun.
Yeah, I miss them. I haven't done them in a while, partly because my phone does, and partly because, I'm busy. And like when I do those, I want them to be special. So like I really have something to say. I try not to just do them to fuck around.
Yeah. Sam said, looking for help with writing. I'm needing writers for an anime series. You can always, our relationship didn't just start. I am actually not even 100% sure how it started between Travis and I, but we would talk about things, and then all of a sudden it was just like you're throwing ideas off each other, and you're talking about, you're looking at what the other guy does, and you're going, I really like this. Have you considered this? Hell, I'm going to throw it out there and tell you guys honestly, the 4-page Welcome to the Void story would never be a thing. Never, ever be a thing if it wasn't for Travis. Travis said, you need to do another story. Why don't you do something for Welcome to the Void? And I said, I have no money. I don't have any art. And he goes, man, that doesn't matter at all. Just use art from the original one. I'm like, that's fucking stupid. That's a terrible idea. And I sat on it and I thought on it and I went, actually, there's something I could do with that. And I got to play with it. And when he looked at it, he was like, well, that's not what I meant, but that's really cool. And it was just because I had someone who I could throw stuff off of and who was going to challenge me. And so, there's no reason, Sam, why you can't get in touch with people and just say, hey, I really like this or that, and get some writing advice and offer that up. Peers. It's so important.
Well, and the other thing that's important too is allowing someone that you trust and respect their work to rip your stuff apart. Issue 2 about, I love issue 2 about, but I had some issues with it, and I shared those with Chuck. And Chuck, from issue 4, for Welcome to the Void, anything he has issues with, he tells me. And it's not that I have to agree with Chuck; it's that I need to see what somebody's issue is of someone who I respect as a writer and as a creator, so I can get better. It's sometimes I'm like, I wanted Chuck's like, I felt this at this. Cool, that's what I wanted you to feel. All right, cool. Like, let's move on. Sometimes it's all that. And he just needs to know, am I supposed to feel this way because it feels wrong?
Yeah, right. I like Mike said, well, now we can start or we can tag the Kickstarter with Extra Madness, which is very true.
With extra.
Trish is, oh my gosh. Trish will talk about one thing. Like, we'll be talking on the phone. She'll be like, I have this neat little idea. And then, like, the next day, she's like, so this is what I'm going to do for the Kickstarter. I'm like, girl, what are you talking about? You don't have anything written. She's all, like, ready to make the fucking T-shirts.
Oh, she told me some of her sticker ideas.
Yeah. The penguin is on his list, so it's okay. That's good. I was stupid. I put celebrities on there that I probably never meet. You were smart. You're like, I'm going to find this penguin, and I'm probably going to fuck this penguin. That was smart of you, Jeff.
But is the I'm cool, my wife is cool with it also like a joke, or is that like there's something there? His wife isn't good with it. His wife is cool with it.
Right? She's cool with it. Maybe that's her mother joke. Mike wants to thank you for the 4-pager because I guess he liked it. So thank you. Davey would love to see if he can write for you. Well, you are, or you're talking about me because you're already writing for Cthulhu.
I think he's talking about Sam's anime series.
Oh.
Do it.
Talk. Chris just, dude, conversation goes mad and your name comes up, homie.
Man, I can't wait to give him money for a cover. I can't wait to do it. I'm so excited to do it, Chris. I know you don't believe me. I know you're sitting there going, yeah, you're just talking about. But one day I'm going to give you money. I'm just going to be like, hey, Chris, here's some money. And I'll be like, you'll be like, what cover am I drawing? And I'll be like, we'll just see what happens.
Funny because Wendy said I have to have a Chris Mad cover for Marauders Masquerade. Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. And I'm like, what does that look like? And she's like, I don't know, but I have to have one.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe you need to think about that, baby, because that's gonna matter. He does certain things really, really well, and you might want to play into that wheelhouse of his. Trish is asking about the list. There's several lists. We could be talking about our mailing list. Yeah. You might have to go back and explain that more because we're not sure what list you mean.
Maybe he's talking about the penguin list that Jeff gets. Maybe there's several penguins on that list.
The list. Oh, so yeah, the list is that, and this was a Friends thing, but I think it was in the zeitgeist even before that. But the idea is that you're allowed to write a couple of names that that your spouse would okay for you to go and have some fun with, and they would then do the same. And so that would be like, like an Angelina Jolie or something like that. So like if you ever had the chance and she was on your list, your wife had to be okay with that. And of course the wife would also have her own list, so you have to be okay with her, the idea that she might meet up with a Brad Pitt or someone like that. And yeah, so make your list attainable. That's the key. Or both of them unattainable.
I don't have any lists because my wife.
You have a hot wife? I'm way past having lists. I agree. Davey's talking to me. Davey, I will message you back after the show, but I feel like I should have as much concentration on what we're doing right now. But we
Davey
are getting
sent me a message this morning, and I ignored him completely. I've ignored him all day. And
that's smart.
We're gonna find me.
Is that an option?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't want to answer him, so I didn't.
But we are at the 2-hour mark. We're having a good time. We can go a little bit longer. If there's anything particular you guys want to talk about, let's get it out now because he is an hour ahead of me. It is midnight. It is officially your birthday, young man.
Thank you.
You're almost 40.
Yeah, almost 40. 39 again.
Again. Congrats. I don't play those games. I'll be 42 in a couple weeks and whatever. I'm just gonna fucking own it at this point.
I am officially 42 as of right now.
Okay, that's right. You and I are just a couple weeks apart.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't 100% sure about that.
Yeah, I'm 42.
Oh, and look at this. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Yes, guys. That's how Chuck's Shop Talk works. Give them the love. That's what it's all about. And Davey gave you silence.
Silence is an answer. See? Davey gets me. He's starting to get me.
Braden said, Chuck Pino, you damn liar. Our list consists of hackers' mothers we need to solemnly make love to. That's true, actually. We and I play a lot of Fortnite together, and we're gonna fuck all the hackers and their moms.
I'm class of '98 because I was dumb one year in second grade.
I'm technically class of '98 as well. That's kind of funny, but that's because for us we had grade 13.
Fucking Canada.
Well, because we have colleges and universities, and whereas universities here are a little more lower learning, in Canada, universities were places of higher learning.
Right.
So University of Toronto, York University, Ryerson University, ones like that, those are huge. It's a big deal. So basically they decided if you wanted to get into those, you had to do an extra year of high school, which I did.
You know, you can start those, GoFundMes, like Jonathan had one for the dog. Could I have started one for Chris Mad, but get me a cover from Chris Mad and just gave him the money?
Why not?
Just give me 10. Damn it! I wish I would have thought of that.
That's
I mean,
a
I
good
have the
idea.
money to pay him directly, but I'd rather other people pay him.
I would rather other people paid him too. Now, where are the strippers? May 1st. May 1st. It's going to be just Danny 9 panels, but it'll happen.
Well, I mean, you did send it to the right person if you're sending strippers. Go ahead, send them to Raw. We're married.
He can have a good time with that. Both of our wives will be there too. So there's really there's not a lot. Even if strippers showed up, it'd just be like they're there.
My wife would punch a fucking stripper out. She does not play.
I don't know if I ever did. I ever tell you that my first official date with Wendy? Well, not really, but our first date was at a strip show.
No.
Okay, this is a fun story. So what happened was Wendy had come up from Texas. We'd only been together, living together for literally like 2 days or something. I had been out of school for a little over a year, and a buddy of mine got in contact with me. He had been living in Ottawa with me. We were about 3 or 4 hours away from our hometown, and I lived there, and a couple of friends lived there, and this buddy and his high school girlfriend lived there. The high school girlfriend left him, and he was crushed, just destroyed. They'd been together for years and years, and so for them, that was just huge. So he contacted me, and he's like, I just need to go out, and I need to drink, and I need to be around strippers. And I was like, dude, I've got this girlfriend who came from the United States to be with me. We've been together for 2 days. Like, I don't think I can do this. And he said, just ask her. Okay, fine. Whatever, I'll do that. So I went up to Wendy and I was like, hey, Wendy, Rob, him and Sabina have broken up. It's really bad. He's staying in bed. He wants to go to the strippers. I'm cool if you say no, but I have to ask you. And she's like, oh, no, I'd love to get out. I'm like, are you fucking serious right now? And she's like, yeah, I'd love to get out. Okay. So we go out, and you guys got to understand, I have no fucking money. It's not payday yet. I have this new girlfriend. I've spent all my money on her. And let's be honest, new girlfriend, we've been together for a couple months, and then we saw each other. So let's be honest, we're regular. So sex and naked women is not something I'm looking for. I'm taken care of. So we get to the strip show. He's watching the strippers. He's having a blast. She sits down, and she doesn't mind the strippers at all. She's having fun, but they actually have the football game, and her team, the Dallas Cowboys, are up on like this huge jumbotron kind of thing, and she's enjoying that. And I'm like, don't give a fuck about football, and I'm getting it regular. I don't give a shit about any of this stuff. But I have no money, and I'm fucking starved. And so I go to the bathroom, and I come back, and as I come back, the two of them are staring at me, laughing their asses off. And I don't get it. In my mind, I just went, took a piss, and came back, but they're pointing at me and laughing. Guys, what's so funny? And then I always switch to Rob telling the story, and he goes, dude, it was the funniest fucking thing. He said, you went, you did what you had to do, you came out, and when you came out, you were literally like inches from the sweetest ass in this whole place. And I looked up, and sure enough, yeah, her ass was right at the door. I was inches away, and I didn't even know. I really didn't notice it. I was like, oh, okay. He goes, but then you walked down, and you saw that waitress walk by with that plate, and I was like, did you see that fucking chicken sandwich? That looks so fucking good. And I guess apparently what I did was, as it walked by, I was like, oh, shit. I watched it like it was an ass. And so that was our first date, so to speak. At the strip club. So we could go, but nothing that ensues at a strip club would do anything for me. So
yeah, I have stories, but I've kind of grown out of that. Like, I really love my wife in the fact of like that doesn't. I don't. Yeah. If I can't have it, like, I don't want it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess Braden's heading out. Thank you so much, dude. Take care of yourself. Get some rest. Davey Lee, 32. I'm not apologizing. Dude, enjoy it. Good for you. Sam's out. Night, buddy. Sounds like people are starting to head. Yeah. Cheers to you people. Clink. What else we have? Chris Mad. There has to be something to that idea, Travis.
There is.
Yeah, we believe it. Travis, I remember you said you wanted a Chris Mad cover on previous appearance on Chuck's show. Enough foreplay, just make it happen.
Okay, first off, Jeff, that's fucking lie. He was on my show when I said that.
Yeah, I believe I was on his stream. Chuck, you got to write this down. Dude, I've told this story multiple times. It's all in my head. It's there. It's just one of those stories, one of my go-tos. 2 days is what the regular consists of. Dude, when you go from nothing to you have someone, it felt regular at that point. At least enough that I didn't care about anything else. You know what I mean? Just said, I was like, I could watch this all night. Huzzah. Yeah, you know what, though? I think I am going to shut this down. I think we got all of the knowledge and all of that kind of stuff. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Travis, thank you for coming out on your birthday of all days.
I mean, to be fair, I came up before my birthday. I just stayed till my birthday.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. We got to ring it in together. Thank you so much. Guys, I appreciate all of you guys. It's so awesome having you guys out here and being able to see all of you. It's been absolutely amazing. Love being able to talk with one of my good buddies about stuff that's so important. Speaking of good buddies, next week, my good friend and the creator of a book that I'm publishing, the first book that I'm publishing that is not mine, Ben Cook is going to be here. He is a writer who works both in prose and in comics, and he's also a musician. And a lot of that will come into play next week when we talk. So thank you guys so much. Good night, everybody. Look at all those people giving us love. Peace, love, and comics, guys. Take care. Thanks again, Travis. My name is Chuck. I give a fuck. Peace out, guys.